Well, thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather. We've got some spectacular coronal mass ejection imagery, the likely trajectory of it, new sunspots, and lots more to cover today on the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. So welcome to space. Welcome to Tuesday. Is it earthly directed? We'll consider the possibilities. First, let's take a look at some more imagery of the closest star. Here's some composite imagery from SDO. And again, a new sunspot here rising in the northeast. It's quite complex. It's Beta Gamma class. There's the intensitygram. Here's the colorized magnetogram. These images are all yesterday plus today, so Labor Day plus Tuesday, September 6th. September starting out right with some geomagnetic activity. It is, after all, the most geomagnetically active month of the year. Volcano rundown real quick. Shivaluch is exploding, producing a 17,000-foot ash plume. Suminosejima, 4,000-foot ash plume. Semaru, 14,000-foot ash plume. It's a flight level 140. Dacono, flight level 070 as Dacono explodes. Nevado del Ruiz exploding, 23,000-foot ash plume. Over Colombia from Nevado del Ruiz. Sangay, 20,000-foot ash plume from Sangay. Revenador in that same country of Ecuador, 15,000-foot ash plume as it explodes, and Sabancaya also exploding, 27,000-foot plume of volcanic ash, flight level 270. Don't pole vault the caldera. Next, looking at seismic activity, largest quake of the past 24 came in just a few hours ago. It was this 6 magnitude at the South Sandwich Islands region there in the southern Atlantic Ocean, near the Atlantic/Antarctican plate boundary. It came in at 8:32 Universal Time this morning. And let's run up the list here, see what else has been shaken. Kermadec Islands had a 5.3. So a little uptick there in volcanic activity, and a little uptick in seismic activity. A 5.1 at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Just a recent uptick here, including this Nicaraguan quake. There's a 5.2 in Central America. About an hour later, the 6.0 in the South Sandwich Islands. And then an aftershock there at the same place at a 5.3 magnitude. And let's get back to space. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux. Currently at 130 solar flux units. And let's bring up one of our favorite wavelengths, the 304 angstroms wavelength. That is your ionized helium. And I would definitely keep an eye on this filament in the southeastern limb, this area down here. There's a huge filament right in this area. And that's another interesting place to be watching. We may have to stream that live today. Radial flux now at 130 solar flux units. So there's the 1-year graph of the radial flux. It's the black line. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux comes from the upper chromosphere and lower corona. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard forecasting geomagnetic unrest into tomorrow from, quote, coronal hole influence as well as possible transient events. So I'm expecting to see a coronal mass ejection strike here early in the day on the 9th, early to midday on September 9th. because the coronal mass ejection we showed you earlier in the video, it looks like it has an earthly directed component, although there is some argument about this on Twitter. So here's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. We do see a slight subsiding of this coronal hole high-speed stream. Very high levels of electron flux that we will get to here shortly. Again, that's Earth's magnetic moment from space for the last 4 hours, scaled in magnetohydrodynamic pressure, nanopascals. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. We show it daily on the channel. It'll show you the most likely places to see things like the aurora, pipeline, rail line, and power line induction. Its magnetic perturbations, geospace delta B, changes to Earth's B field. The scale here is nanotesla magnetic flux density. And there's the KP index over the last 3 days, and you can see an extended period of geomagnetic storm there, as long as 18 hours there of extended geomagnetic storm conditions, including some times of KP6 and KP5. The planetary K index, for your new viewers, is a measurement of global geomagnetism. Let's take a look at the real-time solar wind data measured from Lagrangian point 1, about 1 million miles away from the Earth, outside the magnetosphere, at about 4 lunar distances, orbiting the gravitational equilibrium point known as Lagrangian point 1, are the ACE and DISCOVER spacecraft measuring the solar wind. We see a fairly steady solar wind here around 600 kilometers for the past about 14 hours, and a recent dip here now down to about 545 kilometers per second. Solar wind density about 6 protons per cubic centimeter. And moving into magnetic data, there are your GOES magnetometers for the past 3 days. Seeing a little tighter range here for the past 24 hours there. Pretty low highs and high lows. Next, looking at the heliospheric current sheet, there is a South Pole current sheet headed this way. See that South Pole current sheet shown there in red, North Pole current sheet shown in green. Possibly still a couple days until the South Pole current sheet arrives here at Earth. Let's take a look at the line of sight field plot. Here the sun's B field is modeled in blue. North solar polar field shown in green, South solar polar field shown in red. We've actually seen some sudden shifts actually in the North solar polar field. If you watch this polar coronal hole here, you'll see some recent changes happening in that, a little bit of shrinkage happening there as solar cycle 25 progresses. So here's the line of sight coronal hole plot. And that North solar polar field is in the process of becoming the South and vice versa. South solar polar field migration ahead of the North, as these things do not always happen symmetrically. So here is the 211 angstroms wavelength from SDO. As we see an extended coronal hole high-speed stream from that very well-defined coronal hole there rotating toward the western limb. And that's the last 24 hours. We're going to move to sunspots, but first let's talk about the channel. Thanks to everybody who's been supporting the channel via Smash Team memberships. We decided to replace Patreon with a little more full-service website that we created ourselves. Smashobash.com/SmashTeam is where to support us. You can find our links on the homepage below the video and all over the internet, like on our Twitter page, pinned to the top of the Twitter page. So thanks to our gold and silver Smash Team members especially. There's also a bronze membership if you're unable or unwilling to open up your moldy, cobweb-encrusted wallet. Send us a couple bucks per month to support the channel, since we make just a side of nothing to put the videos on YouTube. Thanks to our Twitch followers, we regularly stream live to Twitch, twitch.tv/Smashobash. And make sure you follow us on Twitter. You'll see things you won't see anyplace else, and it's great for instant up-to-date information from all around the world, including lots of auroral imagery shared in the past few days. There's a retweet from Dr. Keith Strong. So make sure you check that out. If you don't have a Twitter account, get a Twitter account. I'm aware of the pathetic censorship. It doesn't change the fact that you should have a Twitter account. If you want to take hold of your own health, consider a membership with the SureMed, otherwise known as the ABHO, the American Better Health Organization. Supplement your existing coverage with all kinds of discounts and great features like doctors by phone, counselors by phone, even virtual veterinarians. Get discounts of 15 to 50% on dental services. Save a ton of money on vision services like eye exams, LASIK surgery, eyeglasses, frames, etc. By becoming a member of SureMed, it also opens you up to the possibility of purchasing various types of insurance. The SureMed membership itself is just an association membership with a nonprofit organization, not insurance. And you can find my link on the home page and below this video as well. If you want to pick up some merch, time is running out to save 20% on everything in our Redbubble shop by entering the promo code NOTJUST on checkout. If you click the link below the video or on the homepage to this, you'll find our products in order of best selling, as what we're showing you now is in the order of best selling. Promo code NOTJUST to save 20% on all orders. Again, products listed in order of best selling. Today's featured product is Don't Pole Vault the Caldera. Don't pick a permanent solution to a temporary problem. We appreciate your athleticism, but if you're going to visit a volcano, leave your vault pole at home. Don't pole vault the caldera. It could be unhealthful. And we need you to do things like press like, subscribe, share, comment, and press the notification bell on YouTube. Our finest days lie ahead, and if you're going through hell, keep going. We've got the socks. The Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera socks. And they're quite comfy. We want to see an outfit with the leggings and the A-line dress. If you've picked up products, make sure you send us images. We'll feature them on the channel. Hit us up on Twitter or on Discord. You can find all of our links on our homepage. And welcome to the DL Renaissance. Smashomash.com. In 2019, a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison for a crime we did not commit. We promptly escaped a maximum security social media stockade into the internet underground, where we survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find the content, maybe you can hire the Smash Team. You can certainly hire the Smash Team by clicking the links on the homepage at smashomash.com. Also links to SureMed, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, a permanent invite link to our Discord chat, and more, including Patreon, over there on the homepage. And let's get to sunspots. And thanks to our new subscribers, by the way, over at YouTube. So looking at sunspots again, we've got a new sunspot having risen here in the northeast. It'll be known as sunspot 3095, according to my calculations. And let's take a look. Here's some composite imagery we put together this morning for you. That's 131 plus 1700 angstroms. And here's the SDO continuum. We'll also zoom in and show the magnetogram. So this is the past 24 hours of sunspot activity. Mostly stable there, but we've got some quite magnetically complex sunspot groups, including this one here, this one here, this one here, and this new one. Also a new one rising down here in the southeast. So lots of new activity there. Everybody who's hoping for zero sunspots for an extended period of time, it's just simply not happening. Also seeing sunspots at multiple different latitudes indicates that solar cycle 25 is nowhere near completion. It's nowhere near solar maximum. There's plenty of solar cycle to go. It's only going to get more interesting. And again, September, the most geomagnetically active month of the year. So X-ray flux here actually dropping down a bit. Don't be surprised to see this come up a bit. There was one M-class flare in the past 24 hours. It was an M1.1 peak flux around 1800 Universal Time yesterday. It came from the southwestern limb, setting sunspot 3089. It's been a spectacular sunspot. That's the last 24 hours from SDO in 94 angstroms. Plenty more to cover. No relativistic particles there. No solar energetic particles or SEPs on the GOES proton flux. And here's a star chart before we go to coronagraphs. We'll show also a solar system forecast. Venus, Mars, and Jupiter up there in the morning sky if it's clear enough to see it, which it's not here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Rain is dumping as flood watches pervade the Northeast. We'll get to it in the meteorology segment. First, a solar system forecast. We've got a gibbous waxing moon. Let's advance the solar system 1 week. There's where things will be in a week. No, Jupiter's not going to kill you. Keep in mind this imagery is not to scale. Planets are really far apart. Next, some coronagraphs. Here's yesterday, some limited imagery there from the George Mason University site. And here's today so far. 25 more frames for you there. Little CME there showing up, looking like it'll miss Earth to the west. But it looks like there may be some ejecta headed Earth's way, so I would expect a minor CME impact on the 9th, early to midday. Let's take a look at stereo A at Lagrange 5 and the SOHO-LASCO C3 at Lagrange 1. So we pause this here as we've got a partial halo, so it looks like part of that is headed toward stereo A. And considering Earth is off in this direction from stereo A, I would say that there is some ejecta headed our way. It's pretty minor. It does look like a lot of that ejecta is on the opposite side of the sun, but it's about the best guess. We got some missing data here at the onset of this from the SOHO-LASCO C3. We've got like 3 hours and 15 minutes of missing data, which is just enough, but it looks like a halo. Again, most of that ejecta on the opposite side of the sun, but it looks like some is on the Earth side, so it's about the best guess that I can come up with. And let's move on to a 24-hour view. That includes the SOHO-LASCO C3 and C2. So I expect a minor impact early to midday on the 9th. Next, looking at filaments here from El Teide, Spain's ground-based solar observatory. Hydrogen alpha imagery, 6,562.8 angstroms, and a huge number of filaments in the southern hemisphere. Not only a huge number, but this J-shaped filament here is gigantic. Very well defined. That's a lot of plasma suspended out in the solar corona. And here's the last about 2.5 hours from the GOES 16 SUVI. You can see that filament right here. Looks like it's still anchored. We'll be watching it. Here's the last 24 hours in 171 angstroms, the house favorite wavelength. And thanks for leaving comments, TinMan1057 and Mama D1K. On that note, let's take a moment for station identification. This is the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. We've got more composite imagery for you here. Here's 171 plus 211 angstroms. Fantastic filaments as well as coronal holes there showing up in the imagery. Next, moving into bonus features. We've got some serious charging hazards here. Also an electron storm expected to continue. Some significant surface charging hazards here around Mexico moving into the Central Pacific, and some internal charging hazards there all the way from the Central Pacific into the West Pacific, Southern Indian Ocean, Southern Africa. So some significant charging hazards there, including surface charging and internal charging hazards on the surface of satellites and inside of satellites from low and high energy electrons. Here is the GOES electron flux over the past 3 days. And this area right here, that was about almost 10 times warning levels there. And there's the forecast. NOAA lowering its forecast a little bit there. The green boxes are the forecast. The yellow diamonds are the observation. Here's the one-year chart to put that in context from Solon.info. Shout out to Solon.info. And let's take a look at the F ionosphere layer. We see lots of anomalies of both low frequency and high frequency variety. So here's the vibrational frequency. This is courtesy Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. And if you're not used to looking at that, it is a little bit confusing. Here is the anomalygram. It'll show you low frequency anomalies in red and high frequency anomalies in blue. And this is anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Another quick reminder, September is the most geomagnetically active month of the year. There's the latest, that's 10:15 Universal Time, ionogram, 10:15 Universal Time, anomalygram. Next, the total electron content forecast, and we see orderly electron contents at the moment. Total electron content forecast is the coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere electrodynamics model. It'll show you the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset. That's about 12,500 miles of the airspace and the free electrons therein. And things are looking pretty normal here for GPS errors at the moment. We do see fairly orderly electron contents typically when we have high levels of electron flux. Feel free to pause the video on this. Frame distances shown here in miles to various things like the Van Allen belts, the SDO, the International Space Station, and GPS satellites. Next, we've got the latest intensitygram and latest colorized magnetogram. We show it daily. The high-resolution imagery there. And here are our latest sunspots. There's that new one rising in the southern hemisphere. I think that might only be alpha class. I think I only see South Pole oriented fields there. Here's this new one in the north, and this one is definitely beta gamma class. It's got South and North Pole umbrae there. This one's also beta gamma class. So some new activity here coming as some old activity sets. And let's bring up one more series of composites. This is Iron Star 94, 335, and 193 angstroms. And that includes yesterday and today's images. Zoom in a little bit before we move into the realm of meteorology. As it is raining heavily here in Pennsylvania, it's an appropriate day to be covering meteorology. And also, thanks for leaving a comment. One Audio. So here we go to our sea surface temperature anomaly and wind map here from nullschool.net. And we've got a hurricane up here and a tropical storm maybe down here. I don't know. I don't follow it that closely to really know. And also a tropical low down here off of the coast of Mexico. It's in some cold water, though. Some very hot water here in the North Atlantic. And I believe this storm is expected to turn toward Ireland, basically. Also a strong low there off the coast of Ireland. But not as strong as these two Atlantic lows. So that's the current state of affairs in terms of sea surface temperature anomalies. And let's switch to our wind maps. There you go. There are the surface winds of the eastern world. Shout out to our viewers from UNDA. There are the jet streams of the east. Here are the jet streams of the west. Cold air being injected deep into the Mississippi Valley there. Central Canadian air blasting its way all the way down to Texas and beyond into the Gulf. Some huge kinks in the jet stream there, as well as a high pressure system there, an upper level high over central Canada. Right there, that clockwise rotation is an anticyclone. And here are the jet streams of the central world and the surface winds. We're going to bring up some forecast maps. We had some missing data when we started out. We will build some maps for you while we make the video. So here is the weather.gov map and some fog there in the central U.S. and lots of flood watches in the mid-Atlantic and New England. If your county's lit, click your county at weather.gov. Get your weather warnings. We can't cover all of that. But let's actually switch regions here and move to the North Atlantic. So we're going to do let's do a forecast here for 72 hours. This is the total accumulated precipitation for 72 hours. It'll show you the likely storm tracks. So hopefully that helps. And let's also switch back to the full US. And let's show the pressure and precipitation forecast for the same period. So that's a 72-hour GFS pressure and precipitation forecast. It looks like this system's going to make landfall here in northwestern Mexico and then break down a little bit, but still remain quite low pressure there. Pressure ending that series in 72 hours at 973 hectopascals. And there's your Atlantic precipitation forecast, showing you the storm tracks of those two tropical systems. And here's your current imagery. Give that a minute to spool up. Some great satellite imagery there of those two rotating lows. This one's still quite well defined. You can see an eye wall there. As heavy rains continue to buffet the mid-Atlantic states and New England. Here's your NASA GOES lightning mapper. That's the last about 10 hours. And we do indeed see some anomalous data on there once again, I think. Perhaps some missing data as well. Next, go into lightningmaps.org. Any terrestrial strikes in the U.S.? Not so much. But some in Western Europe there. It looks like France is getting some severe thunderstorms. Let's check it out. Yowzers. That is a serious thunderstorm. North of Montpellier. Wow. That is hardcore. What do we have next? It's radar.weather.gov. There's the full 50 state view. We'll focus on the lower 48. And just let me bring up your shortwave radiation map and your water vapor map. They needed some refreshing. And there's shortwave radiation showing clouds and fog. There is water vapor. And here's your recap. We'll do a brief zoom here on this system. And you can see the range of this Canadian radar here. It's not because those storms end there. It's because that is the range of the ground-based Doppler radar system. Here's your shortwave radiation map. And if your Doppler's not making it clear as to how the systems will move, the water vapor should cover things. Remember, folks, dry air is more massive than moist air. Because of the atmospheric weight, the mass of nitrogen versus water vapor. So this air right here is more massive than this air right here, which is why dry air is associated with high pressure and moist air is associated with low pressure. Hopefully that helps you understand the realm of meteorology and space weather. Thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. We'll see you soon. And may that solar wind be at your back.